guys. Thanks for taking the time out to listen to my podcast. Just want to let you guys know if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Listen, I was able to do this very easy. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or the computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a lot more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, it's free. Please download the Anchor app, go to anchor.fm to get started. Take it easy. FYI, I am damaged.
All right. Welcome to another episode of FYI, I Am Damaged. We're here with Sochi. Sochi, she is an entrepreneur, activist, project manager, and a very dear friend of the family. And I am so glad that you're here to, come with me on this journey and share with us and ultimately help everybody out there and as many as we can. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm honored to have been invited. I think that if there's any opportunity that we can take to shine light on anyone else's journey, we should definitely take advantage.
No, that's great. Honors all mine, and we'll try and get through this as best as possible.
That's right. I'm ready.
How it goes. That's great. And all right, so I've known you for years. I've known you as a woman with a force behind your eyes and with a big heart and with no lock on your tongue and emotions. I consider you a great friend to my wife, who is also my producer, and I. Being how I see things and people, I know that type of strength can come from many places. In general, where does your strength come from?
Well, I would say in general, my strength comes from struggle. Like, none of the things that I have accomplished have been easy. So, I come from a family of, not almost no resources in the Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Puerto Rico. My mom was a single mom with, just wanting to bring her kids, give her kids an opportunity to have a better life. So everything I've seen from the time that I was a child was, a woman pushing forward and working hard to get hers. So this is like one thing that you'll always notice in anything I do. I'm like, let's go.
Absolutely. You do have a drive behind you, and I appreciate that. I love being around that. And, everybody always feeds off of each other. So if we feed good, we be good. So that's why I love that, we're around each other. Okay. Now, getting to your episode, getting to your, our discussion, and I discovered we have past sexual traumas in our life. What age were you, and how, if at all, did you make sense of it at your age? If you didn't, when did you stop reliving it and you start to pick it apart to make sense of it?
Well, when did I? Well, I kind of stopped reliving it at the point where I decided, I have to go tell the authorities that this is happening.
Right.
Because there's a period of time when you kind of question, should I talk about this? Should I blow this out of the water?
Right.
And how many people will this affect? So, I kept worrying about everyone else's outcome and not worrying about how much this was hurting me.
So at such a young age, this was worrying you. And again, what I think you said, 14?
I was actually 12.
12, okay.
So during that time, I was kind of trying to come up with a strategy to become free of the abuse, but also not to affect anybody else's life. Like I didn't want to disrupt my brothers, my siblings, their lifestyle, and my mom's relationship with this person.
Right.
So that's something that I've always put everybody else's feelings first, and
Right.
even in this particular scenario, I did. So it took me a little while to kind of gather myself and put together a plan to escape the
Right.
situation.
It's for in general because people think in the terms of there now, and not thinking that, okay, oh, what I would have did. Yeah, you're talking about the mind state of a 12-year-old in the past that they were living in, that doesn't have this type of culture anymore of, you need to speak up. This isn't something that is a mark on you and would be negative in a sense, because that's how the culture, you don't talk about it. You don't
Right.
discuss this. It's,
It's hush hush, especially coming from a Dominican upbringing. I mean, I'm sure being with RG, you're familiar with the type of stuff that they want to sweep under the rug.
right.
And it was not easy back then to say, so and so touched me, or this happened. It was something that was, even mothers, grandmothers, they would think that this was embarrassing to the family.
Or would they even believe you?
Exactly my point. So, and seeing how other girls that were victims of similar attacks couldn't say anything because they were not believed.
Right.
So that was a risk that I had, that I always thought of, like, wow, it is very possible that perhaps my mother or even my siblings will not believe me. So I made sure the day that I planned to escape that I had evidence.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely explore that. If not, again, you know the essence of what we're trying to do, and mainly focus on the strengths. Focus on what you pulled from it and what made you stronger to be the woman you are now. So whether we get to that or not, that's okay. If we don't, because I know how it really is, and I'm sure you do. Sometimes you can't shake it. Sometimes the thought of it, it's an everyday thing. To me, I can relate that it was a daily thing, and it affects you to the point where emotionally, physically, the anger, the sadness, and all the emotions. But that I feel that that's always the base of somebody's strength, because if somebody has they're a pot of a person, throwing a couple of potatoes, the onions, this, that, meat, or whatever, and you come up with something different. I think that same thing with your emotions. It just all ends up in a strength that you can just feed off of and make yourself stronger down the line. And that's, hopefully people can realize that they can do that. But even though if they live in the anger of the day, the sadness of the day, you can move past that. So, okay.
Well, being that this was like, once I decided to pretty much blow the whistle, there's a whole process that goes on with, being placed in a group home. Then there's police involved. There's investigators that are asking a lot of questions, a lot of times the same questions. There's things that are turned into evidence, and all of that process was very painful. But I also didn't mind doing it because ultimately I was getting justice.
And that's interesting, because what I'm curious about, because people, their only experience with, let's say, the justice system, or at least from the police standpoint, then it flips into maybe the legal standpoint. Within that inception of when it was reported and just your feeling on it, which is what I want to focus on, is did at all, because people would think, oh, with American justice and in the United States, and then, oh, it can't be as better as it is overseas. Like, how was it? How was the process? Did you feel protected? Did you feel that the victim was being taken care of, or were you being blamed? Expand on that so that people could understand of how someone going through this in another country that they don't think is up to par with, let's say, the United States, and have no idea what the system is over there.
Well, basically, back in those days, it was very different. I did feel protected by the justice system. Like, they would be very vocal about, we are here if you need us, etc. They placed me in different group homes. I wasn't a child that was used to anything inconsistent. So the fact that they would put me in one house right now, and then a couple of days later, they're like, no, the oppressor found out where you are, so we need to move you. So that was happening for a while. But I mean, as far as the justice system could do at that time, I don't have any complaints. It was just, to me, going through this change, because now I don't have a mom. I cannot talk to my mother. I cannot talk to my siblings. I cannot talk to anyone that had anything to do with what my normal life was like. So here I am, involved in a system where this system is designed to protect me, but I can't trust anybody.
Very true.
So at this point, I'm 13 going on 14. And I had to kind of like learn how to stand on my own 2 feet at that age. Like, okay, what is this about? What are my responsibilities? And most of all, I've always known that in order for me to survive anywhere, I have to work. So I was like worried that I wasn't able to make money. I'm like 13, 14, worried about how I'm going to support myself. So it was something that I was like slowly digesting the fact that I'm now an adult.
Okay.
Because of what happened.
Self-realization.
Just
hit you.
Like, we're not even, the trauma from being sexually abused is not even kicking in at this point. What I'm worried about is, okay, I'm on my own right now. So I have to live with complete strangers. I have to continue to go to school. I cannot be a part of, I don't want to be like a part of the statistics of like, I don't want to be a victim. So whenever they would try to, like the social workers and everything, they would try to put me in therapy. And therapy, I give credit to those who have benefited from it. But to me, it was like, you're reminding me and questioning me about something that hurt me a lot.
At that time?
Okay. Yes. Like, I don't really want to talk about this right now, because I would end up crying and being sad. And if you know me, I'm not a sad person. Like, I don't even when I'm going through some difficult situations, I don't let that kind of like live within me for too long. So at that point, fast forward to the process being over, the judicial process being over. And I find myself in New York with my beloved baby daddy.
Well, let's not go too fast, because we'll definitely get there.
Yes, it's just so much. I want to make sure I don't forget.
Absolutely, but we'll take it as it goes, and we'll revisit. And you're doing amazing. So, what kept you going when, as with most of us, when we get to a certain age, we may consider drastic options? As I said before, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And if somebody hasn't heard that before, that means suicide. Now, have you ever considered it?
There was a point where, and I do have the evidence on my arms. Faith and music always kind of like kept me alive. And there were times where I was like, God, why would you allow this to happen? to me. Like, I'm one of the good ones.
Right. Yeah.
So that did go through my mind, but that went through my mind before I blew the whistle, because it was the frustration of not being able to say anything. And so I tried to slash, my wrist, but I did it the wrong way. I found out later that it's not that way; it's this way.
Well, let's not give people.
Well, I don't want
tips.
to give. Yeah, I don't want to give anybody instructions.
Just
but
don't do it at all. Yeah.
But it's something that I think all of us in our weakness, in our moment of weakness,
right,
we think about it. And thank God I always had like I said, music and a Bible. And I don't want to get too like religious into it, but wherever you open up the Bible, it could be the book of Psalms or whatever, there's going to be something that's going to speak to you. And
right,
me being in a group home, without anyone, without any family, without anyone that was familiar,
right,
that even knew who I was, I had this Bible tell me, God loved you so much that he gave his son for you. So, and at that point I didn't really understand, the really like the in-depth meaning of it.
right.
But I was like, so why would I attempt against my own life if God loved me this much? And so I just need to continue to move forward. And like I said, being a musician and loving music, that was also something that, through lyrics, there's certain lyrics that I would hear and I was like, wow.
So you're fortunate enough to have an outlet to basically, what's the word? Decompress.
Absolutely.
And that's cool. All right. Well, I think we touched on it, whether, when it was discovered and you're ready. So when it happened, I know you said you were removed into the group home. Even though you were removed from those you loved, did you still feel you were supported and believed?
I did not feel like I was believed.
Okay.
And
so you were supported, but you don't think you were believed, or
I was supported by the system that was taking care of a minor.
That family wise?
No, because I couldn't speak to my family.
Oh, okay.
Once I spoke to the cops, I couldn't talk to my mother, or my siblings. So at this point, I couldn't figure out if my mother was on my side or she wasn't.
No visitation or anything?
Nothing, no contact, because this person was living in my house.
For that reason only.
So because he was living with my mom, married to my mom, and my siblings were there, it would have been too much of a disruption to take him out the picture.
Okay.
To have my mom, I couldn't even have visitation with my mother.
Then again, it's a different time.
Yeah.
So some people who are listening to this, they couldn't really reconcile something like that.
Right. Exactly. They were like, it's a conflict of interest for you to see your mom, blah, blah, blah. But I knew, because of the financial, involvement of this person in supporting my family, that was probably going to have more weight than any situation that might have, risen because of me.
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of people who are going through that, it kind of disturbs me that they have to let it slide because they feel as if their support system monetarily would crumble.
Right.
And it's sad that some people feel that they're in that position. And there are ways, but okay. But not going too deep into that rabbit hole. So, what or who? I know you said the music, but in the beginning of this, is there anybody who gave you strength? Was there anything in particular before you discovered your music and God that, and other than yourself, gave you the strength to walk this path?
Gave me the strength to walk away from
to you're basically at that age starting your path in life, walking it, dealing with what you're dealing with, and whatever comes after it, whatever comes from it. Is there anybody, let's say, within the support system for the courts or what have you, when you were removed, is there anybody who was a guide to you, basically, or just helped you, or just maybe did what they could? Because I'm sure there was a lot of people, a lot of kids going through that. So is there anybody that kind of stood out to say, look, maybe gave you advice or whatever? Does anybody stand out to help you, almost in the hand holding or whatever? They see a kid, or it was just basically your own 2 feet?
I pretty much, I mean, there were people that could have been,
It was so long ago.
that could have been that person to me, but I came off, and I'm telling you, it's like a God-given talent. I came off as being so put together.
Right.
And it didn't matter if I was crumbling inside. Whenever I came to one of these group homes, I would be like, I'm okay. I can cook my own food. I can do, like, they never felt like they needed to give me extra babysitting.
And what about any like additional the other kids in there? Did everybody kept to themselves? Did you make friends?
I did make a good friend in this group home that I was placed in, Carolina. Her name was Vanessa. She actually ended up dying, being a victim of domestic violence, like years down the line. And when I do the domestic violence march, I do it for her. So she kind of became my buddy, and she was a little younger than me, but she was like, oh, I can't believe you went through all of this. I'm so proud of you. You're so smart and this and that. So we always stayed friends. Even when I left Puerto Rico, we stayed friends. We used to, back then, write letters to each other. There was no such thing as text messaging or Instagram or anything like that.
Old school.
So yeah, she had, they moved to Orlando, I believe, and she had a child and everything. And she happened to be working somewhere that some domestic violence case, like a guy came and shot the girl, and she happened to be there.
Oh no! So it wasn't her dealing with.
No, yeah, exactly. It wasn't her. She was just an innocent bystander, and one of those bullets caught up to her.
So she was giving her time to help the women that've gone through something.
That's right.
Domestic violence and all that, and then that happened.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You want to give her full name, Vanessa?
Yeah. I am Vanessa Orellanes. So that family, pretty much, even after I left the system, right? We stayed in touch. Miss Irma, I was there when she passed away and everything. They kind of like we always touch base with each other, and they're like, Solsire, how are you? Are you okay? And even though it's not like I'm on the phone with you all the time type of contact, they always kind of keep me present, and especially when Vanessa went through that situation, and knowing that when I do the domestic violence march, they're like, we're so happy that you do it in her honor, because regardless of whether the situation was happening with her directly, domestic violence is something, that's a whole different episode. And at least someone from our group, from our clique, is trying to make sure that their voice is heard.
And that's what we should do. Those voices need to be heard. And anyone listening that's a victim of domestic violence, advocate, by all means, reach out. Now, was she a person that, if at certain points in time this would kind of creep up on you, would she be one of those people you would go to speak with?
Yes.
And just, how in AA somebody would have a sponsor. Yeah. She was yours. She was
my support, and I was her support too, because sometimes one thing that could be my strength,
right,
may be your weakness. So, we helped each other out like that. So I was really devastated when that happened to her.
And I'm glad that she was your support, and God bless her and her family. And it just I want that to show for people that not that many can go through it alone. And I'm glad you're a testament to that, because people don't know that you could reach out to somebody. This isn't something negative against you, or it doesn't make you weak. If you can go to somebody, even if it's a hotline, even if it's something that someone you can call, please do. Don't think you can do this on your own. And that's great
and
that you
right
had that
now,
support.
right now there are, with technology and with the times that we're living, there is plenty of resources. There's the Hope Line. There are so many different ways that you can get assistance. Even if you're in an abusive situation with, living with your abuser, there's places to go. There's shelters. There's so many resources that even there's a lot of women that don't know about these things.
Yep.
And I have always said, if anyone needs help with reporting sexual abuse or any type of thing, like, I will hold your hand. I'll go with you to get it reported, because it's something that needs to be said so that you don't carry this with you for the rest of your life.
That's right. And everybody out there, you have a phone in your hands. You're probably listening to this on a phone.
That's right.
Google is your friend, regardless. With good times or bad, you can research this. You can see your options. You can see what is available to help you. Please get over that hump to discover and educate yourself on how you can help yourself or someone else in a bad situation. As you got older, was seeking therapy an option for you, or what helped or may have been roadblocks? But you did touch on therapy, and you didn't seek it, but back then therapy wasn't really an option to most.
Right. And there's always been like a
stigma to therapy.
Yeah, and especially with Dominicans, it's almost like if you go to therapy, you're weak.
In the Latin culture generally, or even the minority culture, it's whatever. It's just so sad that we're just catching up to it now, knowing that it's not a weakness. But by all means, please expand on that.
So because after this whole fiasco, like I said before, fast forward to me being officially 14 years old and falling in love with my son's father. Mm-hmm. We're living in New York. I'm 14. He is overage.
so you're able to travel, or just okay.
Yeah. I could travel because at this point I'm emancipated.
Right.
So I'm no longer under my mother's, parental guide or whatever. So I'm here in New York, and the one thing that he makes very clear to me is like, the fact that you're 14, I could go to jail, so you cannot tell anybody.
Yeah.
So being that I have always been very physically developed, it was easy to say, I'm 17 or I'm 20.
Right.
But that then hindered certain things that I should have been doing. Like I should have been in high school at that point.
Right.
I also, if I wanted to get any kind of, psychological therapy, I wouldn't be able to, because now the therapist will be forced to report to the state of New York that I am living with an older adult and it's illegal.
Yeah. So,
the fact that I should have been in high school, couldn't be in high school. I wanted to work, I couldn't work because of my age. And I was also learning how to kind of survive in an environment that was completely strange and new to me.
And this was, I guess, in the 80s or the 90s? 90s. And yeah, that's to put that era on top of you moving here and being from another country.
Right. So when I came here, we had beepers. All right. You remember the beepers? You would call in.
Yeah.
And, all right. So that's pretty much what we had to deal with. I had management of the English language because in Puerto Rico they teach you English. But when I got here, it was like I was thrown in a Irish and an Italian neighborhood where there wasn't one soul that spoke any Spanish at all.
Now, this was in New York City or
this was in Yonkers.
Okay.
So basically, you threw me to the wolves, and I'm still trying to survive. Mind you, while all of this is happening, I'm having a relationship. I'm learning also how to be a wife to somebody.
Right.
So this is when I really start dealing with the sexual trauma.
Because he was at that time good to you.
Oh, he was great. He was great to me. But it was frustrating. Because I wanted to have sex because this is a person that I was in love with. I wanted to be physical with him. I wanted to be normal. But there was something about when we got to it that I would start crying. Like I couldn't disassociate the sexual act from a loving point of view.
Right.
And then the sexual act from an attacking point of view.
Right.
So he actually was very patient with me. He was like, I'm not going to hurt you. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. And let me tell you, that was like very important for me to have at that point.
It's very fortunate because a lot of people, even in the past, even now, they're not very understanding of what someone goes through because they've never been through that. So why would they not care, but they never make that connection?
Right. So, I mean, I respect that man for everything that he did and how he handled the situation, because he was like, Solsire, there's another side of the coin. Not every man is going to hurt you. I love you. I want to do this with you, but I want to do this with you when you're ready.
Very commendable. Very.
So he waited, and it was like a trial and error sort of thing. And there was an attempt, and then I would start crying, and he would be like, no, it's not time yet. And this was like our own way of doing therapy, because I couldn't legally go to get therapy for the trauma. But then eventually, as I think as I got closer to 15 years old, it was like, okay, I'm feeling more like a woman now. I feel like I know that you're not going to hurt me. And I can kind of take it from here.
But more importantly is that there was trust.
Yes.
And you knew he understood. And you knew that, what, this person is, the best person at that time to hold your hand, and that you can have go towards a normal relationship. Right. People understand that it's a process. So to say from beginning to when everything was not in a sense cool, but when you guys got to it, it was, how long would that say you felt comfortable enough with him? Did that take months, years?
I would say that took like a year and a half. Yeah. Okay. Because we could have a successful episode, and then the next time I would be like freaked out. So I would say it took like a solid year and a half of trial and error in order for me to be like, okay, I'm finally over this. I can now kind of like dive into my sexuality as a woman.
Right.
Because I didn't have time to do or focus on any of that before. Right. My focus was on survival mode.
Right.
So now it's like, okay, I'm going to be somebody's wife, and I need to deliver.
But and that people might, because people might take that the wrong way, and I completely get it. But it's you built. I like it because you built your strength off of his compassion for you, off of his love for you, off of his understanding for you. And if you never would have had that, then it might have been a shit show.
Exactly.
So it's, guys, understand what another person goes through. And ladies, if it's if the coin is flipped over, it's that understanding, that love, and you hear it now, that it gets people to be comfortable in their own skin, and that's important for somebody who goes through sexual trauma, because the trust can be shattered for other people, and especially when it gets to intimacy.
Absolutely.
Then how long were you how long did that relationship go for?
We were together for almost 6 years. I mean, there were other things that kind of started to get in the way, but never the sexual part. Like, once I got over that, it was like 4th of July. Yeah, it was almost like I was celebrating the fact that I overcame the BS from the sexual abuse. I mean, I read some books. I read this book called The Sexually Irresistible Woman. Right. Like, I mean, and I can't even tell you specifically what I learned from there, but I was like a beast after that.
But the whole point of you being able to accept each other, you being with a man, and then him being with someone who was hurt, and then you guys are able to get past that. That can only strengthen each other. Yes, exactly. Other stuff happens.
And no, but the fact that I could be with a man that I now trust that it's not going to hurt me.
Right, exactly.
Because now I know he's not going to hurt me for a fact.
Yeah.
So I can now be free. I can go and not feel limited.
Right.
So,
or do something that you have to because you think it's an obligation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you said you confided before, but if you confided in a friend, if you confided in a friend or significant other, what would you tell someone listening if someone needs they need the support of someone sharing such a heavy part of themselves? So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about sharing it with somebody, what would be your advice to them to take that leap to confide in somebody?
Well, I've never been a fan of keeping anything buried within yourself. And if you are considering talking to someone, just, try to reach out to someone that is going to be receptive and give you like the better advice. Don't choose your ratchet friend who's going to go and fight somebody. Choose the friend that it's going to analyze the situation and give you the best advice possible, because this is not something light. This is something that's life-changing, mm-hmm. that whatever decision you actually make right now, it's going to kind of mark you forever. So I wouldn't choose the person who's, more, how can I say, like, explosive. Right. You need the calmer friend, the one that's gonna say, okay, this is the strategy. This is what we can do to get you out of where you are. This is how you can continue to keep your job while we get you out of the situation. This is the therapy resources that you have. And this is how we're going to handle it, police-wise, if that is even necessary. Sometimes it's just important to get out of the situation.
Right.
But if it's something that needs to be reported to the authorities, then there's a particular friend that is going to have the wisdom to hold your hand and take you through that. They're not going to do it for you, but they're going to be able to give you the best advice possible. So that is something that's very important. Don't share your story with just anybody. There's some people that might make you feel like you're guilty or, a number of different things, because they don't have the understanding or the knowledge to even be able to judge where you're coming from. So that's something to be careful about.
No, you're absolutely right. Identify your reasonable friends, your ones with those common sense skills. You know, they're very handy people.
Right. I have friends that if I have to fight somebody, I know who I'm calling.
Oh yeah, no, they got the blade in the purse. Yeah.
And then I got friends that if I'm signing a contract, that's who I'm calling. So it's different.
Well, we may have touched on this before, but I mean, other than the singing and your love for God, of different points of your life after it happened, I guess maybe before that, can you identify the different methods or actions you've developed to stay strong? I mean, there could be little things, because the little things can mount up. So if somebody has a mantra, somebody has, you know, even going for a walk or whatever you've done in that time that can accumulate to something that can make you more conscious and aware and be in a place in that moment. You know, what were the certain things that you've done for yourself that would help you stay grounded?
Okay. So one thing that even from the beginning of this whole process, I have never accepted the fact, and I heard this word so many times repeated when everything was happening, that I kind of started to hate it. So I hated the word victim.
Right.
And I'm like, I refuse. So yeah, like I hated the word victim, because to me, it was like, I was like, I'm not me. That's not a label that I'm willing to accept for Solsire.
Right.
So whenever I saw other quote unquote victims of abuse, and I saw that this was like something that they allowed to control their lives or rule their lives, or, you know, I can't do this because I was a victim of this. That was like a trigger for me, because I was like, I'm not going to be that.
Right.
So I kind of wired my brain to I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. Mm-hmm. So I don't accept the fact that, you know, because I was raped, whatever, because I was raped, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my struggle and the pain of my struggle to push me to do better, to push me to move forward. And I will try whatever idea, whatever business, whatever I want to do. I will try it, and I will work hard and push it with the mentality that I'm not a loser. Right. I am not somebody who's marked by this sexual abuse.
Right.
That is something that happened. And like I always say, this gives me like gasoline to continue to move forward, because I have to be successful, because I have to be different. Right. Because I'm not gonna let something that happened to me when I was a child define the rest of my life.
You're right. We always get to that point where, and I tell you, you know, I'll be honest, you know, you feel like even though it's something that happened to you, you're the one that feels like a sack of shit. You're the one that feels like that at a certain point. But as we both discovered, we grow out of that. You get sick of that. You get angry. Then and I would tell people, be an introspective person. Because once you start doing that, then you can realize, no, fuck that. You know, I took the same position. Like, I'm not a fucking victim. No. I'm you know, you're better than it. You're better than that. And to some people, it takes a while just to get there. And it's very tough.
I think that I didn't really have a choice.
And you're exactly right. A lot of us don't, because, you know, we don't have the proper support system. We don't have somebody dragging us to therapy to make us realize that we got to be fuck that. We are on our 2 feet. I got to put one foot in front of the other, because there's nothing else that is an option that I can explore to make me stop feeling this pain.
So basically, the reason that I say it wasn't an option, like, you know, I had my son was 9 months old when I separated from his dad. So I at this point I'm a young woman with trauma, with a job, and a single mom.
Mm.
So
In
I
the
had
90s.
there you go.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a choice of like giving up or being like, I'm gonna be depressed for a week. I'm not gonna come outside. That wasn't an option.
Right.
I didn't have mommy and daddy or, I can't afford to pay my rent. Let me just go live with my aunt. I had nobody. I had Sorcire. So the option of me being a victim was never on the table.
Right.
Which brings me to like a lot of things that I see in myself right now. When women come to me complaining about whatever situation they might have going on, I'm like, stop with the victim mentality. This is not going to help you get anywhere. Right. The fact that when you take whatever caused you pain and whatever brought you to that situation, if you take that and you convert it into fuel and motivation to do better, to show your kids that it doesn't matter what struggle you go through, you're still able to come above it, rise above it.
Right. But not even hide your scars. You walk with your scars. You let everybody see your scars, but you know that, hey, don't fuck with me because you're gonna get a scar too.
Pretty
not
much.
In a good way. And that kind of I'm interested to understand your mother mindset in all of this, because me as a dad, especially of 3 boys, when it comes to them and being protective, you can ask my wife. I'm a fucking psycho. if I sniff anything wrong, I don't care who you are, where we are. It's all bets are off. So but that's a dad's point of view with that sort of trauma. A mother's point of view. In the time you're in, what does that feel like? You're a mom, you're a single mom, you have a child, and then there's always that worry. You don't want this to be a generational trauma.
Exactly.
So what was your thought, your mindset on that?
Okay, so before we actually get to really answer your question, there's a number of things that happen when you're sexually abused. You feel dirty. Mm-hmm. So normally you will be the person that takes the longest in the shower. You'll be because that's just, you feel dirty because of what happened to you. So you tend to be overly
hot shower,
overly hygienic, overly everything, right? For women at least, there is you lose all respect for authority, especially for men. Because now I respected an authority who disrespected me. So now you have to earn that respect. So that affects like relationships and a whole bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. And with kids, that is where the shit hits the fan.
Big time.
Because I only have my son, but I was always like trying to, as soon as I knew that he had some sort of understanding that, what his private parts were, I was telling him, like, if somebody touches you, like, you have to tell me, like, that's not right. You don't. And this might sound a little psycho, but I'm like, I don't want nobody to touch my kid.
Absolutely.
So
there's nothing psycho about that at all.
And I have like 10 godkids because I love children. I'm very overprotective of them, and that's one thing with the girls. I don't leave them unattended. I don't trust anybody because it could be your brother. It could be my brother. You never know where the devil is peeping.
I don't know what the ratio is, but it's always mine's. It was a family member, and I don't even know what the percentage is. It's like But when you hear it, it's always someone close.
It's someone that you least suspected.
Right.
So to me, it's like there is no sure way that we could, there's no formula that we could have to protect our kids. And especially for people that have girls, I feel bad for them. Because there is so many different things. Like when they start to develop, breasts and they start growing and their booty get, it's so many things that to a sick mind might be attractive.
Yeah, they might see children as an option. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And that scares me a lot because as times go by, we have more access to pornography. We have more access to technology. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people, like we were discussing before we even did this interview, that they get off on like certain things, the traumas and
somebody's story. Yeah. And somebody wants to share. I go, "Ooh, what happened? Yeah, tell me more. Tell me more." I'm like, "No, you sick fuck." You eventually see that.
Exactly. So, I mean, with children, I feel like we need to be extremely careful because not only are the children going to have to deal with the traumas that they're inheriting from us as parents, as the way that we were raised.
Right.
But now to add a rape or bullying or anything like that to their plate, is going to put them in a position where they might not be able to thrive like we have.
Exactly. I don't know. For me, it's I don't know how I got here. Basically, I always feel like maybe God kept his hand on my shoulder and was like, "Okay, move a little this way, move a little that way, and we'll get you there, whether you think I did something or not." So it just feels weird. But yeah, whatever. Dealing with such a trauma, do you feel, as I do, that it fundamentally changed you? And I know you touched on that, but that it fundamentally changed you as a person, that you don't think you'll be the same as if it didn't happen. And I feel that, and to expand on that, it's like I feel that a lot. I've had my many intimate conversations with my wife, and tell her, with tears in my eyes, like, I don't know who I would have been if, and I can't find that out. I can't figure that out of who I would have been if this, didn't happen to me. Like, would I have been a completely different person? Would I have been this, huge freaking asshole? Or, maybe I would have been an even better person. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, because I will never know, because of what happened to me and the path that it led me down. And she was honest. She was, from her heart, she basically said, honestly, it could have been to the point of, and I can't, and babe, I'm sorry if I don't remember word for word, but she, in a sense, was basically saying, I'm glad you went through it, because, not in a bad way, but because of the person you are now, the husband you are, the friend that I am to those that are still around, and to the father I am to my kids. But then it's always eating at me. Like, shit, who would I have been if this wouldn't have happened? And, what life would have led. It always is. It's just an itch in the back of my head. So I don't know. Do you experience the same thing?
I actually, and whenever I kind of disclose to someone that has known me for a long time, that is telling me how great I am and how, oh my God, you changed my life and this and that, I'm like, you know what? I was raped. So, to me, it's like, if I wouldn't have experienced that, I probably would have been a prissy little princess, not humble at all, probably spending my mother's money, singing. I wouldn't be the kind of human being that I am today, because this like, okay, I have always been humble, but this kind of made me, like, I lost everything because of this. I had to start from zero. I had to learn how to be a woman at 14 years old. Mm. So I can take a young woman right now, a single mom, and tell her, this is what you have to do. And I could now guide her because of my knowledge.
And you're going to guide so many now.
Exactly. So because of everything that I had to experience and had to experience it on my own, and all the things that I had to learn quickly, just because I was raped. You know what I'm saying? Like, that one thing led to me obtaining all this experience at a like record time, and that I can now kind of inject into someone that doesn't have to experience or wait as many years to grow from that.
Right.
Because I can tell you, I would not have been as compassionate as I am today.
Right.
And I am compassionate, but at the same time, I'm not going to let you sit here and start crying and start dwelling on your pain. If you need that type of friend, I'm not your friend. I'm the friend that's going to say, okay, it hurts. Let's move forward. What can we do about this? How can we turn this into a positive?
Right.
Because if you sit there focusing on the negative, we ain't never going to go nowhere. And we are not going to pull anything out of it that's going to kind of help other people and or help you. So let's analyze the situation and gather ourselves and then see how we're going to approach it. Because I am not about to allow you to sit there and cry and be depressed and be a victim. Yeah. That's just not acceptable to me as a person. It just isn't.
And then people really need to realize that once you start moving forward, you will see all this. People that even at a certain point in time, like I would think where, no, it should happen. If I want to be better, something should happen. But it's not that something should happen for you to get better. It's what you need to make happen for you to get better. Because even a lot of people, and this is not to knock people, but everyone has their own problems. Everyone has their own situations. And not many are going to be sympathetic. And if honestly, even if they're blood to you, sometimes they don't even have to be. They're not, even if they are, they're not going to give a shit about you. And be like, look, I got my own problems. Whatever you got going on, when you're ready to get on your feet and keep moving, then let's go. And that's my goal. It's people need to realize that, you know what, you gotta, when you're ready. Because remember, a lot of people, they're ready at different times. Like I wasn't ready until now. Because I've gone through this struggle, and people that I've been with, they didn't understand. They never understood. They didn't know how to deal with this. And even then, maybe they were dealing with other different trauma that you can't have, it would be a competition. Who's hurting them more? Who's hurting the most? And that is never any good for any type of relationship.
Of course.
So, and it was weird, like the story that we were discussing, and I would without hesitation, bring it up if somebody would ask. But when we discussed it, and I was doing my side gig, and I'm delivering to the building where my trauma happened. And before I would get upset. I would get moody. I would get angry and all sorts of emotions all over the place. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know what happened that none of that washed over. None of that. What washed all over me was an understanding, a realization. Maybe I thought about it enough, not out of sadness and anger, but out of trying to understand, why am I stuck in these emotions? Which is weird, because that was actually the birth of, the podcast, and understanding like, shit, why is now different than in all the other years of me thinking of this, sometimes on a daily basis. Why the fuck am I not going through my emotional roller coaster? And maybe I just got strong enough. I mean, I don't know. I'm still trying to unpack that. So yeah, I mean, that's why we're here.
I mean, I understand with that situation, and I never want to take away, because a lot of people handle it differently.
Absolutely.
So I never want to take away, like, if this is the level of importance that you give it, like, I will be your friend and I will support you. But my taking on this is, why are we sitting here allowing a person that violated you when they shouldn't have? Why are we allowing them to have any power over your today?
That's right. That realization needs to be there. And once a person, I feel, and you're right, once a person realizes that, hopefully a bell rings in their head, like, fuck that. Why?
Because now here you are, you're a successful father of 3, you own a beautiful home, you have a beautiful wife, you have a great career. Why are we letting this BS rain on our parade?
Exactly.
Why are we giving it the power? Because I always tell people, just think about the bad things. Like, okay, if you died today, would you want, like, to be tomorrow in heaven, quote unquote, looking down like, oh, I could have been enjoying my time with my family instead of letting this bad thing chase me or pursue me or whatever, or ruin me? So I feel like the negative thing and the things and the painful things, we need to stop them in its tracks.
That's right.
Because we can't allow them to be in our everyday, because then it's like you're pretty much wasting your life you're giving center stage to the pain. And I'm just not for it.
That's right. And guys, therapy is an option. Therapy helps. And please, it's understand that it is an option. Now, have you had to recover from a negative aspect that this trauma drove you to, such as a bad habit, addiction, whatever? And have you broken from that, and how? What was the driving force that helped you be strong to break from it?
I think, I mean, I wouldn't say an addiction or anything like that, but the one thing that I can say it's been the toughest to deal with is the fact that I don't respect men a whole lot.
Watch your step, guys.
So, I just feel like if a male individual, if a man wants to have a special place in my life or earn my respect, he has to definitely work for it. Because the way I see them, face value, is like, you ain't shit. And you ain't shit because of everything that I've seen. Because after the rape happened, situations have happened with people that I've dated or whatever. People let you down. So I'm not saying that everybody's the same. But now I have a compilation of experiences that lead to believe that niggas ain't shit.
No.
And I'm not using the N-word in a derogatory manner. I'm just saying, yes. So
the hood came out. I understand.
The hood came out. It is what it is. But to me, is like, in order for me to legitimately fall in love or something like that, he's got to prove himself.
So if the dude right now walks in the door, nighttime, but the light is shining behind his back, he has like doves that he just throws in the air. I'm sitting here, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, I'm the man of your dreams. You're just going to look at him and be like, well, you ain't shit.
I'm going to be like, you need to show me. Because all the special effects you got going on, I dig it. But no, you need to show me with actions, because it's very easy for anyone to be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to treat you right. You're my queen, this and that. But at the end of the day, what matters is what actually happens.
That's right.
And I know that because of all the drama and all the trauma that I've been through, that I'm an excellent woman, and I know exactly what I bring to the table. So I might choose to put up with some bullshit sometimes, but ultimately I know what I deserve. And so if they ain't bringing it, I ain't buying it.
Now, with your son, have you shared this with him, or will you eventually? And if so, whether you do or do not, will you think it would help or hurt your relationship? Or do you see it helping or hurting the relationship? Well, have you theorized about it if you haven't approached them and told him about this?
Okay, so my son has ADHD. So I don't feel like it's going to make him better in any way.
Okay.
It's something that perhaps like when he's like 30 or something, I could share with him. But right now I feel like it's going to be a burden to him, because he's going to feel bad for his mom.
Okay.
And one thing about us, most of us, if I can generalize, I don't like for anybody to feel bad for me. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm a victim, because I am not.
Well, that could be with your circumstances. It's different, yes. But if things were in a different space, I think that would be people's first reaction, because of course it's not something that they can relate to. Because if you would tell me, fuck that, we'll have this huge discussion. We're having the discussion right now. It's a different viewpoint. But if it's to someone who has zero clue of how that is, then I think that would be their first reaction. But we would be the type of people to be like, yeah, move away from the sadness, move away from, you don't gotta feel sorry for me. I'm not telling you this in tears. I'm telling you this because look, we need to have an understanding, and you need to this is not something I should be sharing with you on my deathbed. Like, you're an adult, I'm an adult, we can discuss things. Hopefully a lot of people can develop that with their children or family members, and but that's good that you're taking that approach and you realize that. A lot of people would just leave that on the table and be like,
it's common for people to even share certain traumas with their kids. Oh, your father did this to me, or your mother did this to me. And I believe in protecting children as much as we can from the drama.
Right.
Because we had an opportunity to grow up without social media, without, people talking about us or whatever. So we need to kind of try to keep them whole.
Yeah.
And the more we taint them with this type of situations, it's like we're giving them something else to think about when their brain is already like overly stimulated.
Right.
With things that they shouldn't be. So I'm not saying that my kid shouldn't know that his mom was a victim of sexual abuse. I'm saying that it doesn't help my kid in any way right now to know that information.
Right.
So I want to be seen in my son's eyes. Like, my mother is strong. My mother did what she had to do for me. My mother gave me what I needed. My mother talked to me nicely. My mother treated me good. My mother was good. Not my mother was a victim. My mother was messed up because of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different perspective. And like I said, I'm not against telling them. I'm just like, right now it won't help him in any way to let him know.
Yeah, you'll pick the right time.
And so generally, I feel like kids, your kids, and how they will handle certain things.
Right.
So these kids right now, there's a reason that Instagram only gives you 15 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they can't really digest a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we have to try to shield them as much as possible because we don't know what's coming. And they deserve to have as much free atmosphere and free time to be kids.
Yeah, that's very, very important, and that's what I want for my kids. And I completely agree with that because it's tough, especially growing up in the time that we did and in the places that we did. It's hard for a kid to be a kid when all you're being taught is to grow the fuck up. And, life is coming at you and it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. And then compound that with any type of trauma you've gone through. God forbid you've been bullied. And it's just one thing on top of another on top of another. And then people are so dismissive and they just say, what the fuck is wrong with you? Well, get to understand me and get to know me and you'll know what the fuck is wrong with me.
But lately, nobody's making the time to get to know anybody.
Nope. And if it's not about them, then why are we going to make this about you? And people don't get that. It's a give and take. It's a give and take. And if you meet enough people, if you put yourself out there, you can meet that person that you can have that give and take with. And I wish more people had that with other people because bouncing things back and forth and being trusting in someone with someone, it helps a person deal with their emotions. It helps a person realize things. It helps a person make sense of it all. If not, at least put them on the path to make sense of it all. And find the tools that you can to help you make sense of it all. And find the right tools to make you stronger. And I hope we're helping people with that.
I know for a fact that there's definitely people that I have kind of drilled because, like I told you, I don't accept weakness. And I know that we have our moments, and I know that it's only human for us to go through them. But I don't feel like our weak moments should be permanent. We should not let the weakness move in. It should knock on the door. Maybe you're going to open up a little bit and tap with it for a little bit, but you're not going to let it in because we need to continue to move forward. We have to raise our kids. We have to study. We have to become professionals. We have to do so much better for everyone else. So we're not supposed to let the weakness in and have a drink with it on the couch and get comfortable. No.
Yeah. Because that's tantamount to suppressing what you've been through, and that leads people to bottle it up. It's like, don't bottle it up. It's just only going to come back stronger and just pop right in your face at the wrong time, at the wrong person, in the wrong situation.
Right. It's the same thing with overthinking. Some people overanalyze. I don't overanalyze anything. I know what happened to me. I understand it. It wasn't my fault. I'm beautiful. I'm a great woman. I'm a great catch. It is what it is. I'm not letting this thing, ruin the rest of me.
Yeah.
It ruined a part of me. It's not going to ruin the rest of me. So that's the mentality. That's what kept me strong. That's what keeps me from being a victim.
Right.
And that's why I can stand in front of a bunch of women and say, this is bullshit, this behavior you guys want to take on. You got to keep it moving. You got to move forward. You got to study. You got to be better women. You got to be an example for your kids. You have to move better and work harder.
Yeah, I feel you're absolutely right, because I feel that overanalyzation can lead to paralyzation or being paralyzed. You can't move. You're thinking too much. You can you can walk and talk at the same time. You can walk your grief out. You can just get past it and be stronger for it while you're leaving the weakness behind you because you were able to express it. And it's one thing to stay in your weakness. No, fuck that. Get up, speak your weakness, move from it, and move towards your strength. Now, have you confronted the person? And if so, has it helped you with the reconciliation within yourself? And has it made you stronger, or have you regretted it?
Oh, that is actually, see, now I have to talk God, because
Speak on it.
because for a bunch of years, like I've never been a person to hold grudges or be like, hateful or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So even though whatever happened, like I never hated this person or, like it is what it is. It's something that happened. I never like kind of gave it too much burn. But, like 7 months ago, I accepted Jesus. So my faith now changed. And one thing that the Lord says, and, is that you need to forgive everyone that has hurt you, even if it wasn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you were the one that offended me, Jesus says that I need to ask you to forgive me so that I could squash that, so that I could be good with him. Which I was not in agreement. Yeah. I gotta say, I was not in agreement at first.
Yeah.
But, it was like, this is the gospel of Jesus, whatever. So it took me a little while because I was like, this person actually hurt me.
Yeah.
So I don't see how God wants me to ask him for forgiveness. So it took me like almost a month. And when it comes to faith, like I'm very obedient and I'm very like on the money. But this was something that was eating at me because I'm like, no, I gotta double check with God because
I know that for me, I'm not there yet because I'll be like, God, I love you, but fuck.
Yeah, that. Exactly. Yeah. So this person, I said, you know what, I have to do it. Because at one point, like my pastor was preaching and he was saying, somebody that has a sexual trauma, you need to forgive because otherwise the God, and I'm like, he's talking to me.
For real today, please? What?
And I was like, okay, so this was like the second time that somebody mentioned that, and somebody random, like they don't even know that they're talking to me, but they're talking to me.
Right.
So it's really weird. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to this person. So I had the phone number for like over a week. Mm-hmm. I kept staring at it. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get it done with because it was like something that was hanging over my head. Mm-hmm. So I got home. I actually texted him before I got home. And I said, this is Solsire. I would like to call you. Let me know if I can call you. So he responded and he was like, yes, you can call me, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to be home in 5 minutes. As soon as I park and I go in, I'm going to call you. So I call him on the camera. Because I was like,
you FaceTime?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. Because I have to face my attacker for the first time in 23 years.
And he's in DR?
Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So I FaceTimed them and I thought that I was going to crumble. I thought that I was going to be a piece of crap. Like, but I had prayed so hard on it that God gave me the strength to actually get through with the conversation and not melt down.
Right.
So I told them literally like, I wanted to let you know that I don't hold any grudges, that I have never hated you. And I wanted to ask you to forgive me if I offended you. I did say that.
Wow, really?
And I want to let you know also that I forgive you. for whatever happened.
Right.
We didn't get into like details or anything.
Of course,
so
yeah.
I just said that. And then he tells me, I actually have been looking forward to this call because ever since I went to jail, I have been looking for you and sending you letters asking you for forgiveness.
You never received any type
I did receive one.
Okay.
But that's when I was going through my getting to be able to have sex with my husband type thing.
Gotcha.
So I didn't even read it.
Okay.
But I did know that he was trying to ask for forgiveness. So he said to me, I have been serving Jesus since that time. And now that you're also in the faith, you can understand that there's a lot of things that happen that it's not us. Those things are kind of like because of influences that we pick up and things like that.
Right.
And I said, look, you don't have to explain yourself.
Okay.
I forgive you. And like I said, I never had any animosity because I'm just not that person. Like you could hurt me right now. I could get pissed off with you right now. I'll be mad for like 20 minutes. That's just never been me. So, I spoke to him and he was like, what are you doing and how's life and your kid and this and that. And we had a conversation like two neighbors that haven't seen each other in a long time.
You weren't on guard with any type of information you wanted to give to him. Like there was no point in that conversation where like, well, I'm not going to get into that. Don't ask me about this. Or it was just a regular conversation.
No, it was really organic. And he kind of knew where I was coming from because this whole forgiveness thing is like a Christian. It's common for Christians.
Right.
It wasn't common for me because I was like, I didn't do nothing to him, but whatever.
Was he very careful in the stuff? Did you feel? Was he very careful in the stuff that he was asking you? Just keeping it,
No, I felt like honestly, like he was really, really sorry.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like there was any type of a setup on his end. I felt like he was very open to receiving what I had to say.
Right.
And also, like, it has been so many years already that he has grown from the situation. And he wanted to ask me for forgiveness before I even came around to it.
Right.
So it was something that I appreciated the fact that he made it easy for me. I wasn't like scared or intimidated or whatever. And even after this call happened, like I hit him up, like, how you doing?
But like when you hung up the phone, this wasn't like a complete like mind fuck, like this whole conversation. Like
it was
like,
not. It was
hanging up the phone and you'd be like, what the fuck? What kind of conversation I just had with this person that, basically changed everything in my life? Like, what the fuck?
Honestly, like I said, I was not holding any grudges. So I was really forgiving him and calling him because it's something that the Lord asks us to kind of make peace.
Right.
But within me, I didn't feel like I had anything to settle because to me, it wasn't nothing. Like I told you, I'm not giving power to something that I don't want to give power to.
But the moment being, at the lack of a better word, it was surreal. Before, during, and after.
I didn't even think that I was gonna be able to do this call the way I did it.
Yeah.
Without crying, without getting freaked out.
Yelling.
I was so relaxed. And to me, this was divine intervention.
Okay.
Because to face your attacker.
Yeah.
After everything. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him, chilling, like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And that only like kind of confirms to me that I didn't allow him or what he did to me to change me or to continue to hurt me. You already hurt me one time. Right. I'm not letting you hurt me going forward.
Right.
So this is what it is. Like I said, his father died 2 months ago. I texted him. I said, "I'm sorry about your father. Like it's not when you don't give something importance
Right.
or you don't give it the power to hurt you, it doesn't hurt you."
But it's like, just to make it clear, it's not you get a random text and like, "Hey, what do you have for lunch?" No, we're not.
No,
We're not.
we're not.
Yeah,
We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
We're not there yet. We're never gonna get there.
Yeah.
You know.
But I know for a fact, like he said to me, if I ever needed him for anything, to hit him up. And I said, if you ever need me for anything, definitely hit me up. But within me, I was like, I don't know if
it's not gonna happen. But
I don't know about all that, but it was a nice thing to say anyway.
Yeah. Now, people listening to this, out of the many things that they can take from this, what is the main thing you want them that's going to help them strengthen themselves against the storm of any trauma that lurks in their head so that they can heal or get stronger?
Okay, so there are so many things, but number one for me is suicide is not an option.
Never.
We are here for a reason. God brought us to this planet for a reason. And even though the reason might not be grandiose, it might not be, that you're going to change the world or you're going to come up with, the cure for cancer. You're meant to come here to probably change somebody's life. You're meant to come here to probably have a child that's going to change somebody's life. So, ending it or not making sense of your existence, it's not the way to think. Whenever you're thinking that way, you're probably being attacked by forces of darkness, of the same sadness that comes from the tragedy.
Right.
So please try to seek God in those situations. But the most important thing is to know that the pain and the tragedies don't define who you are. The tragedies are just there to mark you and probably teach you something so that you can pay it forward. Because there are people that are going to one day, it might be your kids, it might be the public, it might be someone else that might benefit from you having gone through that experience. Perhaps you need to go through it so that you can be a better person and you can realize something else that you were meant to do in this lifetime. But giving up is never a choice. And if you ever don't have any answers, you don't want to call anybody, or whatever the case may be, open up your Bible and read it. I'm sure that you're going to find a word in there that's going to talk to your soul. There is many different things that you could think are going to fill the empty voids in your life, because this is something common when you're a victim of sexual abuse. You feel like nothing is enough. The alcohol isn't enough. The drugs aren't enough. The partying isn't enough. Nothing is enough to kind of make you happy. So the one thing that I could say is definitely seek the Lord, seek the word, and believe in you. Believe that you can do it, that you came to this world totally equipped with everything that you need to succeed and to come out of any bad experience that, life kind of put in front of you. You're not a loser. You're not a victim. You're a winner and you're a warrior, and you got to move forward. And if you need help moving forward, we're here.
That's very wise and strong words. Remember that, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, whatever you believe in, whomever you believe in, seek strength in things that give you strength. And so, thank you very much for being my guest.
You're quite welcome. I feel like I kind of got naked over here. I need to put some clothes on right about now.
Well, we have it on video that no, you didn't, but I know how you feel. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for another episode of FYI. I'm damaged.
I'm damaged.
Have a good one, guys. Peace and be blessed.
Be blessed.